This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 7th year. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey everybody! In red it says Alex, it says the Ramble. In white it must be Alex and the Ramble. Going until midnight tonight. And hello to all of you here on a Wednesday. We're not doing Wednesday through Fridays for the time being because I'm tired all the time and I'm just, I don't know. I have no idea what's wrong with me. But I'll be dead soon, I'm sure. So what the hell. Anyway, let me see here. Anything else I want to talk to you about? No. I guess, you know, this is the first day of the week, and on the first day of the week we get together and go check out a guy by the name of Phil Meyer. But first, let me just bring him in here. There we go. And here's let me see here. Well, there's his name. I got it there. Come on, Phil. There we go. There's Phil Meyer. Oh, hi there, Phil. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let me get rid of some of these people up here who are waiting. And let me see here. What else do I need to do? Well, that's about it. Oh, I know what I need to do. You know what I didn't do here?
What did you do?
What didn't I do? I didn't do this. See, so everybody knows who I'm talking to. There we go. See? There we go. Phil Meyer.
I don't see that on Zoom, but anyway,
Yeah.
let's see. Everything's working. All right. Hey, I looked up. Well, first of all, do you have any comments on comedian Mort Saul passing away? He was, a fixture in Mill Valley at the Throckmorton.
Yeah. Yeah. I, believe it or not, have never met, I don't think I've ever met Mort Saul.
Neither have I, but I know that Larry Brown.
Very close to him.
Yeah. And do you know why he passed away, or
lack of breathing?
Yeah. Other than being 94.
I mean, everybody says, how did he die? And you go, does that matter? You know?
Yeah.
Do you know in Russian journalism, they don't list how somebody died?
That's because everybody dies by gunshot.
I knew you would make a joke like that, but no, the reason is it's not considered proper to ask.
Really?
Yeah, in the culture. Yeah.
Proper.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Let's see.
But I mean, I'm tired. You do all the talking.
Yeah, thanks a lot. People don't want to hear me talk. You know,
I'm tired all the time. I'm just tired all the time. You know?
Yeah, I do know. Although I am not as tired now that I'm doing this very strenuous exercise, it's helped me. I don't sleep as much because I get up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym 3 days a week at 5. But no, I'm not as tired. I have more energy. And there are guys that are even older than me in this class, and I'm amazed by the strength.
Okay, enough of talking about you and your working out.
Okay,
you should have started doing that years ago. You know.
No, I know it's amazing, and just the warm up.
Don't worry. I'm counting the days. We all have a pool on how long this is going to last.
The guy who's the coach, you live in fear of this guy. He's like he's a weightlifting monster, and if you don't show up, you're out.
And what is the name of the gym?
Diablo Barbell.
Diablo Barbell. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
Diablo-barbell.com.
Okay.
They train elite power lifters, which I am not doing any.
I doubt if you will ever fall into that category.
Never, ever. But I'm doing the what do they call it? Where you push things around and you pull things.
You pull a muscle, you pull your groin, you pull a hernia. Yeah, I know those things.
Yeah. Well,
I'm pulling stuff all the time. You know, I actually get aches and pains, and I'm not even working out.
that's why.
You know, no, I my arm. There's something with my arm that I got in the last couple of days. It was like I threw it out or something, and I don't know how I threw it out. I didn't use it.
Yeah. Well, your muscles atrophy if you don't use them.
Yeah.
And yeah. So anyway, this has been one of the best things I've done in years, and I really feel like it's turning my life around. As well as the diet, which has been a really hard thing for me to stick to. But I feel so much better when
I would have no trouble sticking to a diet if it weren't that I didn't live with somebody. You know?
Yeah, my significant other's not doing me any favors.
Yeah, I know. Well, Marjorie, she'll make me see. Guess what we're having tonight? What? Pea soup.
Yeah. And
yeah, low carb pea soup. To begin with, pea soup is just the worst for carbohydrates, okay, that you can make. And secondly, that night I went to bed and I couldn't stop farting. And I had stomach problems and couldn't sleep that night,
President Trump says that he doesn't like being peed on, if you heard him at his rally. And, maybe that's the kind of pea soup you need.
He doesn't. Did he actually say that at a rally?
That's what it was reported that he said. Yes.
No, but did he say that?
It was reported that he said that.
No, I know it was reported that he said that, but did he say that?
I didn't hear him say it because I didn't hear the rally, but I did hear what was reported.
Because I'm sure that if he had said that, it would be a constant joke on Saturday Night Live.
Well, give them time. They're 40 years behind.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Popping? Mike popping?
No, but you still have that problem where you're, if I talk while you're talking, you completely dump.
I sent you something that I looked up on the web a few minutes ago about that, and other people are having that problem too, and they said that it's in the host settings. Read the little ditty. It's probably full of shit.
It's in the host settings? How come it doesn't happen to anybody else who calls except you?
It's weird. This is what they said. It doesn't happen to anybody else but these guys. So, and they have no idea why. They said one guy said it had something to do with the host settings about suppressing audio.
I always take off all my audio suppression stuff. Yeah. I don't like audio suppression. Yeah. So I don't do it.
I don't like First Amendment suppression either.
But, right. So anyway, what have you been? What's been in the news that's been interesting to you? Anything?
Yeah. Although, if I would write these things down, it would be a lot easier for me to tell you what they are. There's all sorts of investigations. With the school board and the DOJ going after parents that and calling them terrorists for speaking up at school boards and disagreeing with.
Well, have you been seeing some of those school boards and what they've been doing and how they've been doing it?
Well, one of them was a guy whose daughter was raped.
And, no. You can always find an exception to the rule, but these people have been going to these meetings and just disrupting them. I mean, no one minds somebody having a different opinion, okay? But they do mind the fact that these people disrupt it completely,
I'm not so sure that.
Have you seen them?
I've seen the clips that they play.
And where did you see those clips?
Well, where else would I see them?
Of course, and they're going to play the ones of the people who are just protesting something. But there's some people that go in there and just make a big deal out of it, and attempt to disrupt the meeting.
Well, this one guy and the cops dove on him. He was his daughter was raped by a transgender.
Oh God.
Who was you?
Okay. Do you believe the story?
Yeah.
Why?
Why not? I mean,
But why necessarily? You're just taking it out of whole cloth. You're saying, I want to believe this, so okay, his daughter got raped by a transgender.
Yes, but they moved that student who was the rapist to another school, and he raped someone else. And the school board covered it up because they
again. Where did you get this information?
I got it from a very reliable source.
Which one?
The Fox News.
Was it Fox News or was it one of the other ones?
It was Fox News.
It was Fox News. Fox News never lies, right?
No, they don't lie.
They never pick something out. They don't leave certain things out of this story. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen. Okay, you know that I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying that these people at these. In fact, Saturday Night Live did a parody of these people at these meetings, and how out of whack they are, and how they suddenly they were going in there with all the stuff about the ivermectin and the this and the that and the ba and just disrupting the meetings when the subject of the matter was like, should we buy new school books? The
school books that they want to get rid of are the ones that right. As a country of virtue.
Yeah. Well, I got a story for you that I put up on my Facebook page.
Ooh.
Huh?
Bet you got the usual trolls.
No, I didn't get the usual trolls. I got some people that were, But anyway, there's this guy, Grant Napier, who is suing Bonneville International, which is a broadcasting organization, and 50 John Does for his firing from Sports KHTK in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Okay. Napier, the former television voice of the Sacramento Kings, was fired by KHTK in June 2020 after responding to a tweet from a former Kings star, DeMarcus Boogie Cousins, for his opinion about the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay? With his own tweet, he then answered him by saying, all lives matter.
Yeah.
All right? Which Napier claims he was unaware was considered a declaration of opposition to black civil rights. Were you ever aware of that?
Well, I'm aware that the Black Lives Matter movement will come down really hard on anyone that doesn't agree with their position.
Well, here's the thing. He said he has brought up in a Unitarian church and a long career in broadcasting, including 2 Emmy Awards, says that Napier never violated his employer's rules or contracts and nevertheless was suspended and then fired for cause, despite his claim that his intention, that tweeting all lives matter, and then he added to that, every single one, okay. The suit notes that Twitter did not suspend Napier's account of his termination. Well, anyway, point is, the guy was let go because some people were saying that him saying that all lives matter was against, Black Lives Matter, and I don't think it is. I mean, I think there must be more to this story than.
I see people in fear. I see people putting up these Black Lives Matter flags in their windows all over the place, and I think it's because they don't want to be pushed in a corner by the Black Lives Matter movement.
No, well, there's nothing wrong with the term Black Lives Matter, and it's a sympathy that I I adhere to, I go along with. But I've also been known to say, but I believe that, all lives matter. That we should respect all life and to the dignity of each and every person, no matter what race they are. And I don't see where they say, where he says he was unaware that the declaration of, when he was asked, do you believe Black Lives Matter? And he said, all lives matter. Well, that all of a sudden that was anti-Black Lives Matter. That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong here, and know.
Not. It's bullying. What's happening is the movement bullies anyone that will use and will not agree with them in lockstep.
Well, all I'm saying is allegedly this guy lost his job over it.
No, I don't think that's fair.
Well, I don't think it's fair if that's the case. There may be more to the story. I mean, the guy, who knows? The guy could have just been a real asshole, and they wanted to get rid of him anyway. I mean, that's always possible. But nevertheless, when I saw that, I went, it's like ridiculous. And it seems as though Joe Rogan and Bill Maher have come to his defense.
Not Chappelle.
Huh?
It's Dave Chappelle. Now, I've never heard his comedy.
Then you're missing out on some really good comedy.
I understand. I like his position, which is he took a position and he won't be bullied. And the transgender community, for instance, is going after him big time. And he's heard what they had to say. I listened to him on a newscast when he was interviewed. But regardless of his comedy, whether it's good or bad, and I've never been exposed to it, I got to say that the guy is standing up to being bullied, and that's I think what's happening with this Black Lives.
What he's doing is he's standing up for all comedians. Yeah. That's what he's doing. That he's saying that in the name of comedy, people should be able to say what they want to put across. I mean, I think that I saw the special and I saw nothing wrong with it. And what's funny is there were 23 transgenders at Netflix who walked out in protest against Netflix for running Chappelle. What they don't mention is Netflix has 23 transgenders working at Netflix.
Not anymore.
Okay? And they're allowed to be themselves at work and all of that. And they walk out. We're walking out because of Dave Chappelle. Well, come on. I find that thing has got me really bothered.
Well, he's the first guy that can stand up for comedians and say, "Hey, look, this is comedy. You got to get a life." And talking about getting a life, Alec Baldwin, not a good shot. Well, maybe he is. Maybe he didn't like the cinematographer and the other producer.
Did you see what was it? Don Trump Jr. posted.
I try to stay away from everything.
Well, did you see what he posted? It said, "Guns don't kill people. Alec Baldwin does."
That's true.
Well, no, that's not funny.
Hey, look, there's 4 rules to firearms.
Look, and none of them apply to Alec Baldwin in this situation because he has to rely on other people.
They all do, because what I heard today was that they were messing around with the guns, and they were...
Yes. But what Baldwin wasn't. Baldwin wasn't guilty of anything. Baldwin simply was handed a gun, which he then was supposed to fire in the scene, and he fired it, and he killed somebody.
Well, the thing is when you the 4 rules of firearms, the first rule which he violated is that all guns are always loaded, and you don't point them at somebody. If they're going to shoot,
if the scene calls for you to point it in a certain direction, you point it in that direction, and you assume that the gun is a prop gun. Okay, you are not responsible for that. An armorer is. There are people on the set who are supposed to make sure that these guns are fine. he thought when the gun was handed to him, probably every time he's ever been in a movie, they hand him a gun. It's been,
In this same movie set, they've had two other.
That has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with the argument about Alec Baldwin, Phil.
Well,
no. Apparently, there were some hanky-panky going on in which unsafe use of these guns was being done, but that wasn't Baldwin's fault. I feel sorry for Baldwin. He must be just absolutely overcome with grief on this deal.
He's so anti-gun, it would be ironic.
How do you know he's anti-gun?
He's been outspoken.
Never heard him
against the Second Amendment.
Never heard him say it.
I'm sure you never heard him because you don't listen.
I never heard him say it. No, I never heard him say it. But Alec Baldwin, be that as it may, he's using a gun in a movie. He's playing a part. He's supposed to shoot the gun. It's a Western they were making, and somebody hands him the gun, says, okay, gun's okay. It's, we've done everything we're supposed to do with it, he assumes. And then he shoots the gun, I guess, maybe at the camera or something, and he shoots the camera woman. And then the bullet goes through her and hits the director in the arm.
Yeah. Well, I think that because they were horsing around with guns, whether it was Baldwin or other people on
Baldwin
the set,
was not horsing around with guns. Okay, let's get that straight.
I don't know that he was.
No, they have said he was not.
Yeah.
He was handed the gun to use in the scene. And by the way, the scene they were doing was a rehearsal.
Right.
Do
you think that because there was a number of set people that left the set, I guess, was it a toxic environment or something caused?
They felt it was an unsafe set, but again, that has nothing to do with the fact that Baldwin was an actor and he was handed a gun and told, okay, now you're supposed to shoot the gun in this scene. And he rehearsed it, and bang, he shoots the gun. There's a real bullet in it. And how a real bullet got even on a set like that is a big question, and it has nothing to do with Alec Baldwin. He has
sabotage. Could someone have done that on purpose?
Well, I mean, there's any number of things, and we can sit here and try and
was it the other prop people? Was it prop people that left the set or were told to leave the set, and non-union guys came in? What was the story with that?
No, I never heard anything like that. Never heard anything like that. But then again, I don't watch Fox.
Yeah, well, maybe somebody was disgruntled. And
what's got me is how big this story has become. I mean, it's a very sad story, and I feel sorry for him, for Alec Baldwin. I feel sorry for the woman who got killed and for the director who got shot. But how it came to that. People know that when you have weapons on a set, there are certain protocols that you follow to make sure that those things aren't loaded. And by the way, I can't remember who got shot on a set. It wasn't Brandon Lee. I thought it was Brandon Lee, but then it was somebody else who got killed using a gun. Huh?
Brandon Lee put the gun to his head.
Did he put the gun to his head? Was he the one? And it was a blank. But blanks can kill you.
If they're that close to your temple, they can.
Yeah, and it's a paper wad, but that's not to say that with the firing power of a gun, paper wad, So.
Now, do a lot of these prop guns, are they inert and they just use CGI to make the firing sound and to
well, you would think in this day and age they wouldn't actually fire those guns, and then they would add the sound effects later. But maybe what they want is the recoil and things like that to make it look real,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but they also have prop guns that the cylinder will not allow a real bullet to go in, only a blank. And
yes, but this wasn't that kind of gun. So.
an original looking kind of 1800s gun.
Yeah. So anyway, but the thing that gets to me is how big this story has become. I mean, it's a sad story. It's just a very, very sad story, and it's horrible that it happened to these people, and it's terrible. But don't you think maybe there's just a little too much of this story on the air?
I think it's because people don't like Alec Baldwin.
No, I don't think that's it. No. They're portraying him in a very passionate, compassionate way.
As a person in the news in the past, he's been called out for being an asshole.
Well, he can be called out for being an asshole, but that still doesn't mean that he should be vilified for this. He should be vilified for being an asshole, but not for that.
I understand, but you know how trolls are. They like to kick people when they're down, and that might be what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I just think that it's pretty terrible what happened there. But the story is it's like we had this thing with the girl and her boyfriend. The girl got killed in Wyoming, and then he went home and disappeared, and then they found him dead and all of that, eaten by a crocodile or something, or an alligator.
Now, they found his bones.
Yeah, but he got eaten up by alligators or crocodiles or whatever's in that part of the world. But that story, God, it led every newscast for a week, and you're going, it's an interesting story, and it's a looky-loo story, but come on, there's more important stories to report in the lead of the news rather than, hey, this girl's still missing. Oh, well, we just found her and she's dead, and, that kind of thing.
I've noticed what some people are saying is that they run with these stories with a white girl mother kills her 5 babies, or and any of these kinds of things, and they seem to ignore when it happens to people of color.
Well, they do. That's true, but also there are 2 reasons why this story was so big. Number 1, of course, is she was white. All right. Number 2, and it's the most important reason, they had footage.
Yeah.
They had footage of her, being stopped by the cops and with her boyfriend and blah, 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 blah. And because they had the footage, they got a big story. If they didn't have the footage, they'd mention it on the news.
Well, she was a blogger, right? And she did YouTube videos.
No.
Of her travels.
No, everybody have a drink. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what she had a following, and she was a blogger, or not a blog, a video.
I never heard that she had a following.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, a lot of those, camping and overlanding things. TV is so boring lately that YouTube is the only place I can go.
By the way, can you stick around a little bit? Okay, let's bring in some other people here because they're all waiting, and well, they're not all waiting. There are 3 of them, which is Can you stick around? Okay, whoever has their audio up, turn it off. They're all waiting. Not all waiting. There are 3 of them. Jeff, I think you have your audio on.
You wouldn't hear it. He's
Oh, he's got his. Well,
YouTube. That's good.
Okay, so whose audio is that?
I don't know.
So can we make some corrections with Phil?
yeah, please.
With Alec Baldwin? So everybody, most people are not going after him, but the Republicans are because he's a Democrat. Typical bullshit story.
Wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on. Somebody's got their audio up. Jeff, I think you have your audio on. You hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take it off.
Is it off now? Sounds like it's off. Huh? No? Is it back?
Jeff froze.
Jeff froze.
Okay,
Anyway.
so it was Jeff's. The little light lit up every time something in the background would say something.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, yeah, Alec Baldwin is a giver to Barack Obama, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, Fox News picks it up and says he's an idiot, blah, blah, blah. He should be charged, blah, blah, blah. So, the gun that was used was a bullet-firing gun, Phil. It was in the news today. The sheriff has determined, based on what the armorer said, and that sorry, phone buzzed. And everything, there was a live bullet introduced into the gun, and the armorer or the assistant director should have known that or checked it before handing it to Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin probably will not be charged with anything because he's not a gun smart guy. And you or I would check the gun to make sure it wasn't loaded, but people that aren't trained at that aren't going to do that. And so the gun is an old style Western gun, and the cylinder revolves, and the fired, and the bullet went through and killed her.
Just for the heck of it, what's the first rule of gun safety?
But Alec Baldwin, once again, I'll say this again.
Well, the first one is don't let Phil have a firearm.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
Wait. Charlie Wallace has his hand up. Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah. Alec Baldwin trusted the people making the movie. He was handed a gun and told it was a cold gun, which meant it had blanks in it. It was a safe gun. Mm-hmm. He trusted the person that told him that and treated it like Alan said, he's not a gun expert. What's he supposed to do? Look down the barrel and see if it's
no.
You would open the cylinder would be a safe thing, but he's not a gun person. So I'm going to make a little bit of correction here, Charlie, on something you said. Alec Baldwin's company is actually making the movie.
Yeah,
he's starring in it. So, but they're going to go after the assistant producer or whatever that was responsible for the gun.
Assistant director and also the armorer.
Alan, you have one of those guns, right? Can you open the cylinder, or is it just something you turn and you put in one bullet?
I don't have a Western gun, Phil.
Well, you had a Navy, a Colt Navy or Army.
Yeah, but it's a regular revolver with the swing out cylinder.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And so she was about 15 or 18 feet away from the gun when it went off. So no blank is going to go through her and into her stomach and penetrate that way.
Right. But
yes, Brandon Lee was shot on the site in 1993, not the same site, but with a .44 Magnum
on a movie site.
And it was it was a blank, right?
No, it wasn't a blank.
No, it wasn't a blank.
Okay.
It was a real round.
I thought Brandon Lee was shot with a blank.
I'm trying to remember who it was pretending like they were playing
John Eric Hexum.
That's it, John Eric Hexum.
Right.
And he was killed with a blank.
Yeah.
Right. And fortunately, he was a Republican.
Who
Oh, stop it, Alan. Jeez. We just chided Phil for that.
Who was John Eric Hexum?
That's a good question. I never
He was
heard
an
of him.
actor in the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, he died in the 80s. He died 40 years ago. So, yeah.
Yeah.
The 70s, I mean.
Phil was still a Democrat then.
John Eric Hexum, yeah. And when he died, I went, who the fuck is he?
Right.
Well,
I still don't know. I haven't looked. Yeah, he died when a prop gun did not have a bullet in it, but it fired.
Yeah, I think he was the one that was playing around and put the gun to his head.
Right. Brandon
And
Lee
because it
died.
was right at his head, the
Somebody else shot the gun that shot Brandon Lee.
yeah.
Look this up.
Okay.
How did
You
Brandon?
need to start getting
Did
your
Bruce Lee
news
die
from
from a
more
bullet
reliable
too?
sources.
what'd you say? Tony?
Alex, did Bruce Lee die from a gunshot too, or no?
No. How did he die? He died supposedly of some kind of internal injuries or something.
Yeah, he got I don't know if it was.
I remember that.
There are some rumors
stunt
that
done wrong in the movie. Something that went wrong with the stunt in the movie, I think, is what killed
Yep,
him.
I think that's right. God, Tony, I'm surprised you didn't know that.
Well, I used to watch these reruns on like 4 o'clock. Who say like Return of the Dragon? Was it Return of the Dragon?
After he
I liked
died,
it.
that's all you're gonna.
I was
see.
small though. Yes, I really did not. I remember when Brandon Lee died. I was bummed about that because I was so excited to see the film.
It was the movie The Crow.
Crow. I was like, yeah. I said this should be good, and then it came out. I liked the movie, and I was like, oh, that sucked. Well, there was a sequel, but I thought he would have had a decent career, really. Actually, well, maybe because it was just that one movie.
he's a good-looking guy, and he
It's hard to patch a 44 Magnum hole in your head.
Yeah, that's one hell of a hole.
He was accidentally shot in the spine during a filming accident.
Oh,
Who?
okay.
Who?
Brandon Lee, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Time earlier, modified bullets were shot off from a gun as blanks, and unfortunately, they had been modified.
That movie too.
But
Who modifies blank?
Yeah, a
Let
blank.
us just find the real
A
thing.
blank is either a blank or it isn't a blank.
Right.
Can I ask you a question, Alex? Maybe you would know this. I was reading an article. I was reading something on the with Alec Baldwin. Is it somebody was saying something? Do they take the gun and fire the bullets out and then put something back in? Is that how they do the? Is that how they do the? Like they take the shells out or something, they put them back in for effect? Would they do?
No,
somebody was
what they
trying to-
do is they fill the chambers with blanks.
So there's several types of guns that are used in movies. There are guns that are blank firing that sound and look like a real gun, but where the barrel is, it would be sealed off, and so nothing could fire out of it, and it's not even chambered for the size of a bullet. It's made for blanks. Then
So in that gun,
Huh?
what was it? In that gun, there was one live ammo, and the rest were blanks. Then was it just not
we
taken
don't
out?
we don't know that.
Haven't
We don't
heard
know
that.
that. All we know is live ammo was used in an old Western replica gun, and it had live ammo, and when it fired, the live ammo came out. The old Western guns are a pretty big caliber, usually 45 caliber long Colt or something like that, and they can do a lot of damage.
on the Lee thing, they said that, and I didn't know this. They said that somebody actually put a real bullet in a prop gun.
Right?
Brandon Lee? Oh, that sucks.
Brandon Lee thing.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
To kill them.
You know, you start to wonder. I mean, I'm not into. I was like, how can that really even happen?
Well,
Like,
ever since the Brandon Lee situation, they've been very careful on film sets.
Except for this one.
They've set a whole set of rules and regulations. And somewhere along the line, it was reported, as Phil mentioned, that earlier in the day, members of the crew had been using this gun to do, what do you call it? To do just target shooting. Could be that they used real bullets and then they forgot to take the real bullets out.
Yeah.
And maybe they put in 5 blanks and that's what happened, you know.
I'm scared of guns. I would never even want to hold one.
Yeah. Well,
That's probably a good thing.
I wouldn't even fire it. I'd give it back. I mean, there was no way. I mean, even if you have it in your hand, it's just not knowing you could take somebody's life at any second, just like that. That's
Charlie?
Well, I wanted to correct something else or expound on something else that came up during your discussion with Phil.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that saying all lives matters in response to Black Lives Matter is bad is because it's insensitive. If your wife came up to you and said, "I'm sad," and your response was, "Everybody's sad," how do you think that would go for you?
she'd be like, "Fuck them. I'm worried about
You'd
talking about
be
me."
pissed the fuck off, and that's what pisses us off when you say all lives matter in response to Black Lives Matter.
And I understand exactly what you're saying. That's why I stopped saying that a long time ago. Okay? But what happened in this situation is that isn't exactly what he said. What he said, let me go back to my page here where I had the whole thing. What he said was, let's see here. He said, Black Lives Matter, own tweet, all lives matter. And then he said, all lives matter. And, oh yeah, all lives matter, every single one.
I don't see how that's negative or insulting.
How is that negative or insulting, Charlie? Just, I mean, please educate me.
I'm not the one that fired him.
No, but what I'm saying is you were saying that
That's still an insensitive response to if somebody's complaining about Black Lives Matter. They're saying the police are out there treating Black lives like they don't matter. They are not treating white lives like they don't matter. They're not treating Indian lives like they don't matter. They're not treating British lives like they're treating Black lives like they don't matter. So when you say Black Lives Matter, you're protesting that, and have somebody come back and say, well, fuck, all lives matter. Yeah, that's going to piss him off. I don't care what the other things he says after that.
You know, the
You're minimizing his feelings.
majority of officers now in many police departments are black. And
Doesn't matter. They still don't think Black Lives Matter. You think black officers haven't killed black kids unarmed?
yeah,
okay, well, that answers your question, Phil.
majority, you know, there's more crime in black neighborhoods than in upscale white neighborhoods, you know, because it's black on black crime. If you look at Chicago and you look at the number of people killed every weekend, this is not happening by white.
You know, Phil, Black Lives Matter is not about blacks killing blacks. It's about police officers killing unarmed black men.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like ambiguous to the Black Lives Matter movement, but I understand what it is. Obviously, you don't. And I think Charlie would agree with me. It's not about, I mean, you know, Charlie knows, he's a smart guy. He knows that in South Chicago.
I grew up in South Chicago.
Right. And so
I was shot at as a teenager by other black teenagers in Chicago.
And so we all know that. But Black Lives Matter is only about blacks that are unarmed, that are being killed by mainly white officers. And that's it. That's the whole Black Lives Matter movement.
What it came out of, like Dallas, where you had 5 Dallas cops that were assassinated, and that's where it was born from. But let me ask you this, Charlie.
No, it was before that.
It was long before that.
Oh, do you agree that as a black person, do you see a lot of resistance to from blacks towards cops when they get stopped on an automobile, or for any reason? There seems to be a lot of resistance, and that resistance leads to more violent behavior?
Well, that's two different things. I see resistance because, frankly, we're pissed off about that. Every kid, my dad told me, I told my son, we all have to have that talk that whenever a cop stops you, you have to just be the most subservient person in the world because you don't want to get shot and killed.
You got to do that as well.
Well, some people get pissed off at that. Why should we have to be different? I went to an integrated school, Catholic school. None of my other friends in school, they couldn't believe this kind of shit happened to black people. It never happened to them. They were white.
You don't think that maybe they didn't resist when it, show me your hands, and they
Phil, why is it you're making it the fault of the black people?
Blame the victims.
Wait a minute, why are you blaming the victims?
I am saying this is behavior that I've observed, and so therefore, I want to know.
Let me say you've observed that through, shall we say, prejudiced eyes.
No.
Oh, yes. And look, even Alan, who was a policeman as well, agrees with me.
How could you say they're prejudiced eyes when all I'm doing is seeing reality?
Look, to begin with, I think that this notion that blacks do this and whites do that, no. Wait a minute. This is not a racial problem. It is a class problem. It is a problem with people who are have-nots and people who are haves. The haves always get away with any shit they want to get away with. The have-nots do not. And I don't care whether you're white or black, there are have-nots in this society. And the people who are the have-nots are going to have more crime in their neighborhoods. There's no question about it. But it has nothing to do with black or Hispanic or anything else.
Let me tell you something. When a cop pulls somebody over, whether they're white or black, they don't see that initially when they're making the stop. All they see is a car and they got probable cause. Now, when a cop walks up to my car, and I've been stopped, I roll my window down, I turn the car off, I put the keys on the dashboard, and I put my hands on top of the wheel where they can be seen, and I put the dome light on.
Here again, this goes back to what Alex said, though, Phil. I do the same thing, but it's based on yours and my training as a cop to do that because we want the cop that's walking up to us to feel comfortable.
Right.
Yes, and I do the same thing.
Eyes wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Dome light on, hands on the wheel.
Absolutely.
And you probably don't get much, if any, crap from the cop.
No, I don't.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
But nevertheless, first of all, I have to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I know that I have been stopped just because I was a black person driving in my neighborhood. I know that because nobody else is getting stopped.
Well,
I'm driving down the street, guys are passing me, but I'm the one that gets stopped.
Let me ask you this, Charlie. When you have been stopped by a cop, are you suddenly in fear for your life?
Of course I am.
Okay.
That's why
There's
I'm
the
very
answer
different.
right. There's the answer right there, Phil.
So to me, Charlie, let me give you a for example here. For example, if you were black in an all-white neighborhood, I could definitely see you getting stopped before a white person. I don't agree with it. It needs to have a basis.
Well,
but
that
happens. But that happens.
I'm a middle class. I was a computer analyst for 30 years. I lived in a kind of upper middle class neighborhood, and yeah, I was one of the few black people in the neighborhood.
Right.
And I got stopped.
Right. I understand that. I don't agree with it that the police are stopping you because you're black, but you know, it's unfortunate, and I'm glad to see that it's changing.
Let me ask you this, Phil.
Slowly, unfortunately.
When you stop a car and you don't know who's in the car, you can't see who's in the car, and you get out of your car and you go up to the window of that car and you see that the guy is white, do you suddenly breathe a sigh of relief?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, because that guy could shoot me and kill me just as easily as somebody black or Latino or Asian.
You know,
your guard's up constantly.
I did police work. There were so many felons. There were, you know, because San Quentin was just across the bay, and there were more guys on parole that didn't want to go back to prison in the area I did police work than you could shake a stick at, and they'll kill you as soon as look at you if they think that you're going to violate their parole or you know, do something.
Arrest them or anything. Yep.
There.
It's a very complicated issue. You know, I mean, where Phil worked, most of the city is black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, where I work, most of the city's white. But, you know, I can't recall a time, there's a lot of Latinos in Fremont. Now there's a lot of Asians, probably more Asians than Caucasians. But at the time that I worked here in police work, most of the time I stopped somebody that was white or Latino.
Yeah, I rarely gave a guy a ticket that had a valid license. If he had a valid license, I said, you know, hey, that's good. You know,
verbal admonishment is what we call that.
Valid license. You made them park it and walk it, or
Right.
If you pull over because the license plate was expired, I'd never write the ticket for the expired plate because that was probable cause for somebody else to pull the guy over.
Right.
You know.
That was pretty common. I'm not going to incriminate myself, but that was pretty common.
I think enough years have gone by.
You're right. If you make an arrest, the one thing you don't do is you don't cite them for $4,000 a. You let it go.
4000A is an
It's
expired.
expired registration in California. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I think all blacks, to get back to this and that, for me to kind of end what I have to say, I think all blacks understand all lives matter, but the Black Lives Matter movement is strictly based on mainly younger black males that are unarmed, stopped by the police and being shot and killed because they're black and in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So that's the same thing with the Blue Lives Matter movement.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with you there. I mean, people kill cops.
Okay,
because
let
they're
me for a moment piss both you guys off. Okay, I don't think blue lives matter, and I'll tell you why. Because blue lives have a gun on them, they have mace, they have a two-way radio, they can call for other cops to come help them. My life matters much less because I don't have all that stuff at my disposal. So when you say that a policeman got shot or he got killed, we all go apoplectic, but they have more things at their disposal to prevent them from getting killed than, say, somebody like Charlie.
Cops are putting themselves in harm's way because of that's their job, and it's
perfect strangers.
They're being paid to do this. They're not being paid to get shot.
Well, that's why I don't take that job. Yes, Charlie.
Yeah, I have 2 cousins who are cops in Chicago, so I don't want cops getting shot just because they're cops either. There were those 2 cops sitting eating lunch in Las Vegas, I think it was, and one of these boogaloo boys or whatever came in and just blew them away, sitting there at their table for no reason except for the fact that they were cops. That pissed me off.
Same thing happened in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yes, Tony?
You know what I was just watching on YouTube? I do searches for like the old documentaries from New York, and I saw a documentary on the 70s in the Bronx. And how these cops took that job up there, I don't even know. They were burning buildings every 2 hours. I mean,
the place looked like Dresden at one point.
It did, Alex. It was like there was.
They made a movie after that, Tony.
Yeah,
Somebody shot it like an 8mm. It was so
Fort
clear.
Apache Bronx or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
My dad was a volunteer a volunteer firefighter in New York. He was 82 in the South Bronx. That Engine 82 had more runs than any other fire department in the country.
I'll tell you a funny story. My mother was born in the South Bronx. And when she came here to visit me, said, "You know what I want to do? I'd like to go back to my old neighborhood." And I went, "Oh, okay." So we drove up, and it was the South Bronx. And, of course, at that point, it was like Dresden. It looked like it had been bombed right after World War II, and they were cleaning it up, okay? And my mother said, "What happened to my neighborhood?" I said, Mom, this was your neighborhood in 1906. This happens to be 1976. But look, this is what it is now.
When my father went out on a run, see, what would happen in the South Bronx is all the buildings were all burned out, but people would pull the fire alarms just to have the truck go up. And my father was on the back of the truck and got hit with a brick, fell off the back of the truck, and that was the end of his volunteering. But he still got his fire helmet. But Engine 82, it was a famous firehouse. They wrote a book called Report from Engine 82, and it was by a guy named Dennis Smith. And very good.
I think he might be a newspaper guy, I think.
No, Dennis.
He was, I just think, unfortunately, a lot of black lives have been snuffed out by racist cops, and I'm happy to see that we're retraining cops and we're weeding the cops out that are racist as best we can. And and it's a thing that's
I got to say something. Let's just remember that it is very nice that we have gotten to the point where we can start weeding out cops who who treat blacks disproportionately, because that's a very minor problem compared to what was happening in the South years ago when they were lynching people.
So
You know, I mean, that's a step forward that we're arguing about the fact that cops treat blacks disproportionately.
you feel that the cops, you're not sad when one gets killed, Alex. They have the guns and the radios and to be able to call for help. Let me tell you something.
I didn't say that I wasn't sorry for them. I said that I certainly have less sympathy for them than the average person who's unarmed, who becomes a victim of crime and is murdered in the process over a cop who has all this equipment at their disposal. Okay.
So I know you've probably never been around people that have been shot. They can't always call for help or return fire or anything. But that being said, somebody that will kill a cop, you know, if they kill a police officer, that makes you unsafe. Nobody's safe if somebody's willing to arbitrarily kill a cop.
Well,
people are nodding here on the show because that's true.
I agree with you for the most part on that.
Okay.
But I still I have found that over the years the police, you know, the amount of corruption that has gone on in police departments across the country over the years, and I'm sure you're not going to disagree that it existed.
Oh, I'll agree.
It has, especially here in New York, believe it or not. This was one of the most corrupt cities for cops.
I think you're just still upset about being pulled over by the Miami police.
Well, that terrorized me. It certainly terrorized me.
That was horrible. You know, shouldn't have happened.
And I was pulled over because they had heard that I'd said something about them on the radio.
You weren't even black. You were just a DJ that they didn't like.
Yeah.
Talk show host.
And you know what I was
going wait a minute. Phil's trying to say something, and he does get muted.
I'm just saying that there was corruption everywhere in every business. Even if you look at the building business, there was kickbacks.
The carpet business,
the radio business.
On prices on certain days.
The carpet business.
Radio business. What was the radio business? Payola. When Payola happened, by the way, Phil, let me inform you that when Payola was happening, there was no law against it. They immediately came up with a antiquated law called commercial bribery, and had it come under that. But up until that time, most people who were taking payola went, "Well, I guess is the way we do business."
Did it corrupt?
Did it what? Wait a minute. Let Phil finish what he's saying because we can't hear him when everybody's talking.
Wasn't it considered corrupt? To be bribed?
No, as a matter of fact, I always made the point, and I never took payola, but I always made the point that these record companies should actually pay for us to play their records, because when we play their records, that's a free commercial for that song, and if we don't play their record, then they're not going to be able to sell that record. So they really should be paying for us to play them. I suggested once that we start a whole new format, and that was a station where the record companies could actually buy time and we would play their record.
Alex, it's funny you say that. I used to call the rock stations up for new music, and I used to ask the guy, what was that band you played? And I would write it down, and I would go to Numbers in Forest Hills and buy the record. Right. I couldn't, because back then there was no internet.
We've been joined by Brian Neary, who I know exactly what he's eating. That is my favorite treat. I have one every night.
What brand is it?
It is called Keto Brand ice cream. What do we call it? It has two net carbs in every bar. And tell them how good it is, Brian.
Yeah, it's very good.
Huh?
Actually, Adrian ate one by accident. She said, no, the Haagen-Dazs is for you. This one is for me.
No, but that's better for her.
No,
I want these. And they have their sea salt caramel. Really good.
Oh, it's really, I mean, really. If you go to Costco, buy a 12-pack, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. I'm telling you. The taste.
If you if you go to a food store like Safeway or I I don't know what they got back east. They used to have Dyke Shopwell, but the vendors would pay to be up higher on the shelf.
Oh yeah.
So
Still happens. Still happens.
yeah. So if you wanted shelf positioning, you had to pay.
So that's
I hear carpet stores and linoleum stores do the same thing.
well, I mean that's a yes, Brian. What?
Yeah, my grandfather was so he was a big shot at Safeway, and actually he had a house up in Hillsborough, and yeah, my mom was a teenager, and he got caught, and they wanted to make an example, set an example from him. So the IRS came down really hard on him and pretty much took all his stuff that he had. So yeah, and that's what they were doing. They're taking stuff, like he said, like everybody was.
The Italian Bernie Madoff.
We're taking money and getting, like you guys are saying, stuff on the higher shelves. Better advertising for them and stuff like that. So
yeah. But,
so he was a big shot at Safeway, and actually he had a house up in Hillsborough, and yeah, my mom was a teenager, and he got caught, and they wanted to make an example, set an example from him. So the IRS came down really hard on him and pretty much took all his stuff that he had. So yeah, that's what they were doing. They're taking stuff, like he said.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Jack, would you please turn off your audio from the show?
Shelves,
For a while, I was beginning to wonder why Brian was out of sync.
Yeah.
Is he repeating himself? That ice
Why
cream.
did he repeat himself? Yeah.
Yeah. Now we're okay, I guess.
You guessed correctly.
Yeah.
My fault. I'm bad.
Yeah. But anyway, those are great.
Very good. Yeah.
They're so tasty. I'd say 18 of them sitting in the refrigerator right now, and every night I have one.
They're too high in fat.
What? No, they're not high in fat.
No,
these are keto. They're very low in
diet?
They're very low in carbs. What does it say? Look at the package there, Brian. What does it say for calories?
Yeah, 12 calories, 180 calories.
What's it made out of? What are the ingredients?
Cardboard.
Darkened soybean. No.
That's how I feel
real
about
ice
it, Bill.
cream. I don't eat desserts much, thank God.
Yeah, but it's really good. It's really good. And if you're on a low carb diet, it's perfect. Just perfect.
Yeah.
And they taste good.
Yeah. Have you tried these?
And they're very big, like you said before. Yeah, they're big.
Have you tried these keto bars at all, Jack?
Listen, I heard you talking about them last week.
Yeah.
I bought some. I'm a believer.
Really? Am I right? Is it great or what? Yeah.
You're great.
Yeah. And then Brian went out and bought them. Gee, the company should send me a couple of free packs just for.
Yeah.
No, that would be payola.
We were talking about payola, by the way, and I said there was a time when payola wasn't really illegal. It's just they found a law they could wrap it around.
I wanted to ask you, Alex, if the My Pillow guy was willing to sponsor of Gap, you let him do it.
Alex, would you give me a free pillow? I'd take it.
No, I
You
wouldn't.
wouldn't take it?
No, I couldn't. In good conscience, I couldn't do it. No.
Good.
And on the other hand, I always had a feeling. I always had a policy where I would never prevent an advertiser from advertising on my show unless their product hurt people. In which case, forget it. You're not going to advertise on my show. But if it were something that I didn't agree with, in fact, at one point, the Republican Party bought time on my show in San Francisco because they knew I was a left-winger and they wanted to get to my audience, okay? And they said, well, why didn't you stop them from advertising on your show? And I said, because, it's like freedom of speech. If we say you've got the right to buy time on our show, you've got the right to buy time on my show, but I have the right to demand that what you say in your commercial you can live up to, that you're not lying and that your product doesn't hurt people.
Well, do you think the My Pillow guy's product hurts people?
No, it's a piece of shit is what it is. And
Alan uses them.
I love them. I bought them before the guy became an idiot.
What happened to Brian? I guess we lost Brian. I guess he just went.
Oh yeah.
He probably broke his ice cream fell in his lap.
Yeah, seconds.
Yeah. So anyway, how you doing, Jack?
Hey, I'm doing surprisingly well. Listen, I dropped in here just to let you know that about 2 decades ago, radio stations found a way around the question of payola.
You went talk?
No, music stations started selling 3-minute, 4-minute blocks to record labels to play whatever
that was a suggestion of mine 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But the disc jockey didn't get the money. You see,
no, the disc jockey didn't get the money. The station got the money.
Yeah.
But with payola, the disc jockey ended up with the cash.
So what was wrong with that?
Well, because the disc jockey, I guess, is an employee of the station should get the money. But
that's spoken like a real Republican.
Yeah.
So if the guy's an employee of the station, he's generating money for the station. That's one thing. If he takes the money because he works at the station and sticks it in his pocket, that's theft.
But many radio stations back then didn't pay their people worth a damn. And so the stations looked the other way.
Well, wait a minute. Let's go back and look at somebody like Alan Freed, okay?
Yeah.
He got popped for payola. At a time, nobody ever said it was illegal, okay? And then all of a sudden, one day they said, oh, this is terrible what's happening, because it got on the news and everything like that. And they said, oh, this is terrible. You can't do that. Well, what law are we breaking? And they went around looking for a law that could be broken in this case. And they found a law against commercial bribery. And that's really what they busted people for in payola. And the fact was that up until that point, a guy like Alan Freed was the most popular disc jockey practically in America. And the station he worked for made a fortune off of selling advertising on his show. So why shouldn't he make a little money for getting money on the records he plays?
There were major market stations. I can think of one in our hometown of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
One, I can think of two now that I put my mind to it, that paid their people $75 a week and looked the other way when guys took payola. KOBY, which was the first top 40 station, if memory serves me right, in San Francisco, they paid their guys $75 a week.
If they didn't like what they were getting paid, they didn't have to take the job. This harkens back to what I think about with the building practices in New York, the mafia and the kickbacks, and all what's happening is the mafia was causing workers to have to pay to work. So you had to pay the mafia if you wanted a contract or if you wanted to work. And I look at these guys and I say they're nothing more than leeches on society, because who ends up paying for this? Ultimately, it's the consumer.
Hey, but Phil, look, say what you will.
Of course I will.
Well, I hope so, because you're a bold American. But the thing is, these stations, primarily top 40 stations and stations that serve people of color, paid their folks nothing, and they were not the leading stations in the market.
Well, I remember a station in Peekskill called WLNA, and the disc jockeys there got $100. And they also had to empty the trash cans.
I've seen that. I visited.
That's what that business paid. If you didn't want to do it, then do something else.
All right, but you never heard of a guy named Don Sherwood, did you?
Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah, Sherwood didn't make $75 a week, didn't make $100 a week. He was making decent money.
Yes.
But the thing is, these companies, and they were not the big companies in broadcasting,
would advertise. He was the voice of products too.
Well, no, he wasn't actually.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't.
the local radio here.
No, but he would do maybe commercials on his show, but he was not. He did not. He was not a spokesperson for any product that I remember. And I was a big Sherwood fan.
Yeah, I just remember him pitching, pitching products.
Well, but you pitch products on the show, so what they call a live read. And you would do live reads. I used to get paid extra money for doing a live read. I used to get $50 a live read because I sold product whenever I did one.
What station was Sherwood on? Because I don't remember specifically looking to listen to him.
Well, the station that I remember, because my dad listened to this station because they carried the Giants, was KSFO, which at that time was the most popular radio station in ratings in the market.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they paid Sherwood good money.
Oh, great money.
I didn't want to go that far. Conversely, George Oxford.
Jumping George Oxford.
Jumping George. And he was on the air at the first radio station I worked at.
Was that KDIA?
No. That came later.
Oh, okay.
He was on KSAN 1450.
Okay.
Now, the story on George was he was a white guy doing black music on a black, quote, black station owned by a family of white Pentecostal ministers. And they paid him $75 a week to live in San Francisco. Yes.
Opposite of what you did, country music, a black guy playing country music.
But we got to remember, when the time we're talking about, $75 a week was probably not terrible. Usually $125 a week was what was common pay back then. That's what I got paid when I went to work in Sacramento, $125 a week.
Yeah, but you're talking about the difference between Sacramento and San Francisco.
You know, what I'm saying is that when you talk about $75 a week, that you could live on that in San Francisco.
And when I moved to San Francisco in '74, I was making $150 a week, taking home $112 after taxes, and my rent was $225. I don't know how I lived.
All right, but to show you how it was, Alex and I lost track of each other for years. We both wind up in Houston. He got there about a year or two before I got there. He was working at the #1 top 40 station in the market. I was working at one of the black stations in the market because back then, if you were a black announcer, you didn't do anything but black radio.
Right.
I was the highest paid guy at that station they'd ever had at $145 a week. Don't remember that.
I don't remember what I was making at KILT. I have no idea. I cannot remember how much I was making.
Well, that was so long ago. The only reason I remember it is because when I went to work for the James Brown Group in Knoxville, Tennessee, as program director, they were willing to pay me $165 a week.
No, really?
Was when you guys were in Houston, was that in the mid '60s?
Well, I was only there for 6 months. I was there in '67. Alex,
I got there in about '65, maybe.
Yeah, I think 65.
Yeah.
$150 a week was $145.
But I don't remember how much I was making, and I could tell you, like in Sacramento, I know I was making $125 a week. But when I moved to Houston, I don't know what I got paid, to tell you the damn truth.
These disc jockeys make too much money.
I remember when you first came to Camel, Alex, didn't you start at $35K?
Yeah, $35,000 a year.
And all the camel dung he wanted.
And then I got up to $75,000 when I said I was leaving and coming back to New York. And then I got a call from a guy by the name of Bob Pittman, who was the head of MTV. And he called me, and I figured, good, MTV's calling me, right?
That's big, yeah.
And I answered it, and he said, I'm calling for some friends of mine who are taking over a station in San Francisco, and they want to know how much it would cost for you to leave KMEL and go to work for them. So I didn't want to go through the whole problem of having to get out of one contract and get into another contract, so I threw out the number $125,000 a year.
What did he say?
And they immediately said, "Fine, when can you start?"
Wow.
I immediately said to myself, "Why did I ask for $150,000?"
Alex, would your agent get mad that you did that or no? Would you tell him?
What agent?
What agent?
Did you have an
Yeah,
agent
really.
back then or no?
Never had an agent.
Oh, no.
I had an
Oh,
agent once, and he screwed me like crazy. Yeah.
Business manager when you were still at Camel, right?
Huh?
You have a business manager?
Well, I've had a business manager for years, Gary Haber, but he just balanced the books, paid the taxes, paid my bills, and occasionally would make deals for me that I would call the shots on. But I did get a lawyer later on, a show business agent, and it was terrible. He was just terrible. He didn't. I made all the money. He just collected the checks. Yeah. So.
Didn't that guy double team you? He had another guy that he got a position that was your position?
Oh no! When I finally was fired from Live 105 the last time, when they decided I should leave, and I said, "Okay, I'll go." It turns out this guy, who was my agent, was representing the guy who was going to take over for me.
Oh,
Nice.
And you can't do that. That's illegal. But he was literally representing the guy who was taking over from me. So it didn't matter whether he lost me, he gained another person.
Yeah, that's like you don't date your friends' girlfriends.
Yeah. So
Oh, it's never bothered me.
Yeah. So I mean, I just never had an agent, to be honest with you.
I had an agent and never got a job out of it.
Yeah, exactly. They sit around waiting for you to get the work, and then they're
Right.
there with their money, their handout, right? Asking for
But the
money.
most money I ever made from a radio station was $125,000 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. I had the second-rated show in my time slot, and the guy that was doing the morning show, who was the big-time guy at this station,
Mm-hmm.
he made less than I did because I had been there the longest of anybody.
Well, I'll tell you what happened with me in San Francisco. Between the salary that I negotiated and the extras I negotiated, for instance, as an example, the fact that I got $50 a live read, and I used to do about 8 of those a day, so that's $400 a day just in live reads. And then I also did comedy shows, comedy concerts, and I would say out of that job I was making $400,000 a year.
Well, the guy that was our morning guy,
I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you that.
yeah, the guy that was our morning guy came there from I want to say somewhere in Indiana. He was an instantaneous smash in Dallas. He had never done country before.
Mm-hmm.
But, it doesn't matter what kind of music you're doing. Just like McClendon, your old boss said, you entertain informatively, you inform entertainingly, and that's how you build an audience. They were paying him when he walked in the door. Now, I remember I was getting 125, and I was doing evenings because I'd been there 12 years.
Get to it.
They paid him $50,000 a year. And he was there, and he had great ratings in our market. And one of the strange things about Dallas that's always bothered me, the newspapers publish everything about radio stations, the ratings, who's making what. He found out he was #1 in mornings in Dallas, and there were 5 guys who had worse ratings than he did who were making more money.
Well, I mean, I always, I never ever let that bother me when I found out that somebody else was making more money than I did and I had higher ratings than they did. I just waited for my next contract renewal to come up, and I got even.
Well, Live 105 has changed their name to Dave.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well,
how stupid.
People say to me, "How do you feel about the fact that your radio station has now changed?" Blah 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 blah. Isn't that sad? And I went, "It hasn't been the old Live 105 for the last 20 years, for crying out loud." While you were,
Al, you were pulling down 400. That in those years, that's probably worth $850 today.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Yeah. But I mean, I had to, the actual salary they were paying me was somewhere around $250,000. But all this other stuff added up that we threw in. I was allowed to advertise for free all my concerts on the show. I was allowed to, I did these live reads at $50 a live read, and there were usually about 8 of those a morning. So by the time it was through, it came out to about $400,000 a year. So,
the person that came after you, was that Dave Masters or Bill Masters?
Steve Masters.
Yeah.
Steve Masters. Yeah.
Well, like Alex, how I boosted my salary, I did.
Well, this is boring talk. This is really boring talk.
Yeah, we got to listen to you on the intersection.
We won't talk about this on the intersection.
Yeah, talk about your salary on the intersection. It's kind of, I find radio talk just boring.
I thought he boosted his salary by shaking down local merchants.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah. And then you went out and you did those in-person things, right? They pay you to go out and do an in-person.
Oh, I hated those.
Those were the worst. I hated those. I had it in my contract. I wouldn't do them.
Well, I never failed to take $1 when it was offered. But that's how I boosted my salary, was being willing to do those kinds of things and do.
So you showed up at somebody's door with a bunch of pizzas and.
Hey, well, you know how you get an unemployed disc jockey off your front porch? You pay for the pizza.
I
heard you jerk them off.
I had a friend that did one of those live things from the window of the front window of a store. So he's in the store window, and people are walking by this guy's store, and he's doing, I forget what they call those on-site.
It depends on the station. They got different words for them, but the guys that do them, we all got one word for them we use, and that's called "I hate this shit."
Well, Brian's been very quiet, and Jeff has not said a word all night. Now his mic isn't on, and we can't hear him.
I love what you're saying, Jeff. But turn your microphone on.
Yeah.
I agree, Jeff.
Yeah, really. That was totally
Jeff,
on cue, Jeff.
Ask to unmute. There we go.
Yeah, I can make Jeff say something. Jeff, I bought another Saab today.
Oh my God, you're crazy.
See?
older ones?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Don't tell my wife I bought it yet, but I got the guy I bought it from is my Saab mechanic. And I told him, for the first 6 months I'm owning this thing, it's got to live here at your place, or I'm going to spend the next 3 or 4 years living in your garage.
Yeah, I charge my friends double for that.
Jeff, didn't you just buy a Saab Sonnet?
Got a Sonnet?
Yeah. You're muted, Jeff.
I haven't, by the way, I haven't owned a car in 17 years. I haven't owned a car in 17 years.
Oh, kiss my black ass.
Yeah.
Well, I'll pass on that. Okay?
Yeah, really, that doesn't sound very appealing.
It's very tasty.
Yeah. You better get going, Jack, because I know you have a show to do next.
Goodbye, Jack.
He'll be doing the intersection next over most of the same little outfit.
1, 3.
What?
The Saab Sonnet, was it a 1, 2, or 3?
3.
Oh, nice.
It's got to be a 3. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Well, I was once referred to as a good.
Unless you had a 1.
I was once referred to as a good-natured Saab, but that's. Yeah. Hey, thank you, Phil, for sticking around. Appreciate it, and Alan, thank you. Always, Tony. Wonderful having you here, Jeff. Very quiet tonight, but always nice to just see you there.
Let's talk about Florida and how well you were in Florida.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that. Brian, I'm glad you like the keto brand ice cream.
I want to go get another one.
And I know. And Charlie Wallace, thank you for being here. Everybody, give a big wave goodbye. and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you, okay? And I'll probably be out of sync now. There we go. Let me see here. Let me close everybody out here, and I should get in sync. There we are. See, everything's fine. Anyway, hey, listen, that's it for tonight. Jack Bishop is next with The Intersection. Give him a call. Talk to him. I'll see you again tomorrow night, 10:30, same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody.